Wake the fuck up.
With the answers to all your questions on love, sex, and relationships. You're now listening to Naked on the Inside with your host, Shanya Ryan.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Naked on the Inside. I am your host, Shanya Ryan, and today we're going to discuss a topic that is foreign to most people, downright scary to others, and yet is becoming more and more prominent in our everyday society. The subject is polyamory, and that's the practice of having more than one intimate relationship at a time, with the knowledge and consent of everyone involved. Now let's talk a little bit about polyamory. Polyamory is a term that comes from the Greek word poly, meaning many, and the Latin word amor, meaning loves. It is also known by some people as consensual or ethical non-monogamy. Now it differs from swinging in the way in which swinging emphasizes more on recreational sex, couples choosing to have sex with other partners outside their marriage, but there's no emotional connection, and that really goes the same for an open relationship. But the way an open relationship works that's different than polyamory is that in an open relationship you don't tend to share as much information with your partners. Polyamorous couples believe monogamy is not necessary to foster a healthy and loving relationship. Polyamorous people usually self-describe as poly, which is the shortened form of the word. So polyamorous relationships vary greatly by the people involved. What works for one set of partners won't necessarily work for another set. Polyamory is very open in definition, but there are usually some common traits in poly agreements. Open and honest communication, ethics, and transparency are some of these traits. We will talk a little bit more about this later on in the show. As being poly doesn't mean you are free to do what you want, as you would be in an open relationship. Breaching these values are seen as dishonesty by your partners and can be considered cheating. So how does polyamory work? Well, usually it starts with partners creating a set of rules that covers the desires and needs of those involved. Sex isn't usually the main focus of polyamory, and partners are interested in forming closer relationships than purely physical. This is in turn taking time away from your first partner. To keep anyone from feeling neglected, it is important to have the set of rules to keep everyone happy and on track. Overcoming jealousy, possessiveness, and cultural standards are the biggest obstacles in coming into the poly lifestyle. It is accepted that one must recognize these feelings and learn to deal with them internally instead of taking these feelings out on your partner. It is important to remember that polyamory is different for everyone, and a poly person may participate in various forms of sexual or romantic relationships. So let's talk a little bit about partners and relationship definition within the poly community. So first things first, let's talk about primary partners. A primary partner is the name given to your principal partner. Okay, so say you are a married person in a polyamorous relationship. Your primary partner would be your spouse. Your other partners are referred to as your secondary partners. And rarely, although sometimes, poly people use the term tertiary partner to describe the lowest form of commitment in their model. Some poly people even object to the use of ranking terms within their partners, believing each partner to be equally important. So how about relationship models within the community? Well, of course, there's the model where two primary partners have their own partners outside of their relationship, but there are also triads, quads, and moresomes. A triad consists of 3 people in a committed relationship with each other, whereas quads describe 4 in the same model. A moresome is a group of multiple people committed to each other. There are rarely any other sexual relationships outside of these groups, but sometimes there are. It's important to remember with polyamory that everybody is different. Polyamory also uses letters to describe how people are interconnected within a group, such as a V or an N. We'll discuss these terms in more details probably in another show. So let's talk poly terms. These are just some words that are used in the polyamorous community, and I just wanted to throw them in here and give you a little idea of what they mean. So first there's polyfidelity. Polyfidelity means a relationship where all partners are equal and are similar to monogamy, and that there is no sex outside the group. Monopoly is another term, and it means when one primary partner is monogamous, but the other one is polyamorous. Another popular word in the poly community is compersion. Now, compersion might be something that's a little hard to comprehend if you are a monogamous person, because it means the happiness and joy that you get out of seeing a partner happy with their other partners. There's also the term new relationship energy. Now, everybody knows what new relationship energy is. You meet someone new, you're getting to know each other, you get butterflies in your stomach when you see them. It's all happiness and joy and excitement, and you talk to each other day in and day out. and that's new relationship energy. It's basically just the heightened emotional and sexual excitement experienced at the beginning of a new romantic or sexual relationship. The honeymoon phase, if you will. Earlier we talked a little bit about the values that are involved in a poly lifestyle, so let's discuss it a little bit more in detail. So as I mentioned, each poly relationship is built around its own set of rules, boundaries, and expectations. There are, however, some common values involved in most poly relationships. One of those is fidelity and loyalty. This is the faithfulness to the promises and agreements made within the relationship. Breaching these agreements would be seen as being deceitful to your partners. This could also be seen as cheating in a more traditional sense. Another very important value that is very common among the poly community is communication negotiation. This is open discussion and negotiation of terms of the relationship between partners. This is an ongoing process, as partners' needs and desires are often changing. Communication is also key in healing any breaches in the agreement. Trust, honesty, dignity, and respect. These are both important for partners between each other and a partner for their partner's partners. It is very important that you accept and respect your partner's partners as part of their life. Another value that you see commonly in the polyamory community is boundaries and agreements. Now, these are agreements and boundaries that can consist of such things as agreeing to discuss new partners, or such thing as time scheduling, working out who gets to see who, when, how much time you're going to spend with your other partners, public displays of affection. Some partners aren't comfortable with their partners showing as much affection in public to someone else as they are to them, and finances, how much you're allowed to spend on your other partner. So something else that's kind of important in the polyamorous community is gender equality. This means that partners of both sexes are expected to follow the same rules. There are some exceptions to this. Sometimes when a couple is entering into a poly lifestyle, a bisexual wife may agree to date only women until her partner is comfortable. Another example of this would be a monopoly relationship, where the woman's bisexual, the man is straight, and the man agrees to let the woman date other women, and he stays monogamous. These exceptions are part of the agreements made by the partners involved. Polyamory encourages the recognition of one's own jealousy, fears, and possessiveness, and to learn to deal with it within yourself instead of taking it on your partner. So this is very important. Jealousy isn't everybody. And just because you're polyamorous, it doesn't stop it. I mean, it continues to go on. You really don't ever get over being jealous. It's just a natural instinct. But in polyamory, you're taught to recognize that within yourself and learn to deal with it. So we're getting a little short on time here, but I want to tell you a little bit about my own experience. So my husband and I, we do have a polyamorous relationship. We've lived this way for give or take about 3 years now. And I've had partners outside my marriage. It hasn't always been easy. Sometimes it's very trying, but it's also very rewarding. So some of the pros and cons that I find with the polyamorous lifestyle are the pros first. You get to explore interest in other people naturally, so instead of just forcing friendship or forcing romance, you really get to build what's naturally there. If you feel like you meet someone new and you only feel friendship, then you just have to be friends. But if you do have that connection, it's nice to be able to explore it more. Another thing I find is that it really helps you to meet all your needs, and so you never feel like you're lacking anything. You can continue to explore your sexuality, and a lot of people, their sexuality is always changing, so it's very important. You never get bored. You never have to cheat. To be able to talk to each other and to work through something like this, you have to have honesty and communication, openness that most people don't have, and it really strengthens your relationship. So some of the cons is, of course, jealousy, time management. Each partner has different needs that you have to be constantly meeting. Your primary is going to need the most time and attention, and you might have a family with them. So your secondary really has to fit into that. And sometimes your secondary might have a busy schedule, or other commitments. Maybe they're married, maybe they have kids. So you really have to figure out how to work that together. And of course, you're also asking your primary partner to adjust to it too. Now, I wouldn't say I would go back and change anything, but it's not for everybody. It's far from. I will revisit this topic on a later show. I would love to hear your comments, your questions, your suggestions, anything you think I've missed, and I will build that into it. Because there's much more discussion that can be had on the subject. I would love to hear just what topics you'd like to hear on the show too. And till then, I'm Shanya, and this has been Naked on the Inside. Thanks for listening.
Dysfunctional dream. But where there is one, we divide one into. Divide the whole into yours and mine.